All right, as we said before, Robin, reconnaissance is all about information gathering. It can be both passive and active. As an attacker, you employ both modes to gather information. So where do you start first? Well, that's the question. You should first visit their public website to understand the organization and gather details of the organization, including key people, contact details, etc. Then we will try to gather potential customers, areas of business, and technologies that they use. So reviewing the company's website is an example of passive information gathering. Then we might call the help desk to get some more information and attempt to social engineer employees to get privileged information. These two situations are active information gathering. And when it comes to the scanning of networks, you will have to ping machines to try to figure out the network ranges. You can also port scan individual systems to understand the status of ports and really to figure out if there are any vulnerabilities at all.
So let's go back to the whole process of information gathering or reconnaissance.
Okay.
The process can be divided into 7 major steps. Here they are. 1. Gathering initial information. 2. Determining network range. 3. Identifying active machines. 4. Finding open ports and access points. 5. OS fingerprinting. 6. Fingerprinting services. And 7. Mapping the network.
Yeah, and we mentioned that you should be methodical in gathering all the information in all the ways you just said. This does not mean that you must follow only these steps in this order. Instead, you should assess the system or network and do, frankly, what works. All we are giving here is a set of steps that will finally help you identify the vulnerabilities out there. And as a hacker, that really is your goal. But as an ethical hacker, you will want to gather information about the vulnerabilities and see how you may protect your environment. There's the difference.
Right. So this course and the course on footprinting elaborate on these steps. However, we want to give a snapshot of each of these steps here.
All right, so initial information gathering is very important, as you could imagine. Good information gathering can make a difference when hacking or pen testing a system or network. You have a lot of information available in the outside world about any organization. You can look at the company's website. For example, you got news items, any financial information that's published to the public. You can get some very useful information from disgruntled or dissatisfied employees or those who left the organization recently. You will be able to get to know a landscape of the security architecture if you hit the right sources or people. You can get details of the people, their roles, contact number, email IDs, etc. You may get the details of even server names, locations, and IP addresses.
So next, you try to find out the IP address range so that you can scan the network and or ports. You can get such details from the Whois database or Aaron.net.
Now that you have the initial information and the IP address range, next you want to try to find the active machines on the network. It is important to know which of the machines are active before staging an attack. You can do a ping sweep to find if a machine is active. You could ping every system running TCP/IP. And many organizations restrict that. Ping sends an echo request to a system and waits for the response. Based on the receipt, or in some cases the non-receipt of that response, you can determine if the system is active or not.
So let's say you have the details about active machines. What next? You would want to understand the ports used by the applications and software packages. So, work to identify the open ports and access points. Open ports will help the attackers a lot. You may be thinking that a firewall will protect them, but that isn't always true. There are programs that circumvent the firewalls and get to the ports.
And once you know the ports and the access points, try to figure out the operating system and its version. When you have those details, you can refer to a standard database to find out the vulnerabilities in that version of the operating system. And if an installation has not applied a patch to fix a known vulnerability, you have an entry point.
Right. Now, there are 2 ways you can fingerprint the operating system, passively or actively. In active fingerprinting, specifically crafted packets will be sent to get a response. When you get a response, you'll be able to figure out the OS fingerprint. In passive fingerprinting, you try to sniff a packet to understand the operating system and its version. Though active fingerprinting is the more accurate method, the preferred approach is to go with passive fingerprinting, as you will not be noticed by intrusion detection systems, nor will you leave a trace in the logs.
After fingerprinting the OS, you should fingerprint the services. You should be able to banner grab using tools such as Telnet and Netcat. You will be able to know what services use which ports, and using this information, you can then try to launch an attack.
And you should also be able to use the default information and behavior of any system. So, for example, if port 80 is open, you can assume that IIS 6.0 is running. If port 25 is open, you can assume that Linux is running. These are only assumptions. You cannot assume that the information received in a banner grab or based on the response from a port is correct. The system may be giving you falsified information. So, you're assuming that this information is correct. You can use Nmap or Superscan to get to know the common services associated with open ports.
All right, so with all this information that you now have, you can try to map the network. The map provides the hacker with the blueprint of the organization's security profile. This compilation could be manual and it could be automated. Now, you should have a good idea about the steps involved in gathering information. One thing you have seen is the use of this word footprinting. We said it a bunch of times, right? The first 2 steps are considered passive footprinting, and the next 4 steps are considered active footprinting, or really scanning, right? And the last step is enumeration. So footprinting covers almost all of the information gathering process.